Greetings, everybody, and welcome to a follow-up scene for Vampire by Gaslight, our Victorian horror. After the chaos ensues from the dogfighting pits and the boxing pits, Christian and Peter Townsend fled the onset of the blues and the police whistles, down some side streets and over to the area. Increases in wealth slightly. It's not a slum, but it's not a posh area either. It's somewhat middle class. But in this particular neighbourhood, there are a couple of more expensive and cleaner brothels that Christian doesn't exactly frequent on a regular basis, but you could guess that he comes here enough to be recognised at the door. And he's at the moment he's holding his arm, and the blonde middle-aged woman at the door lets him in. She opens a little sliding hatch to see who it is, because she's heard police whistles out on the street. And once she sees it's Christian, she lets him in, and lets you in as well. And she doesn't really say anything to you. It's a house that's been set up as a brothel, so it's got sort of like the downstairs with like a parlour, and you've seen these sorts of things on TV and read them in books. You know what the sort of general layout is.
Yeah.
It's kind of like a sitting room downstairs where people sit and chat and drink, and then there are bedrooms upstairs where obvious things happen.
Exactly.
And there's a bar, and there's a couple of men down here. They don't really pay you much attention. They seem to be in conversation. But it's not busy, and there's just a sort of quiet hum of conversation. And sits down in one of the chairs and looks at his arm, which he's spent a point of blood to make it bleed, otherwise it would be a masquerade breach.
Yeah. And Peter takes he doesn't need to, but he mimics taking a deep breath and sighing and going, what the heck was that? He sits so close to Christian that he makes sure that they're the only ones who can hear their particular conversation. Who was that glittering idiot?
That was Floki.
Well, is he the... No, he can't be the resident Malkavian, because Malkavians are mad, they're stupid. Not generally stupid, anyway.
Yeah, the rarity of having a mad idiot. He's Gangrel.
Gah.
And he's particularly stupid where animals are involved. I'm not objecting to him releasing the dogs, but he could have fed them first and then released them once everybody had petered out.
Exactly, doing it when the tent was empty and we wouldn't have had any problems like this. This was just stupidity. I mean, what did he think was gonna happen when he let out a bunch of raging, angry, hungry dogs in a crowd?
The Seneschal's not going to be very happy. He'll hear about it soon enough, considering I saw quite a few policemen descend on the scene.
How's your arm?
Oh, it's alright. I've had worse.
And you can see that he looks annoyed now that they're out of danger, so to speak. He has time to realize what actually happened. You're like, for fuck's sake, I fought that guy to get to talk to people, and now that happened.
Oh, a younger woman approaches Christian, and she's got a bowl of water and some bandages. And she sort of leans down purposefully sort of giving you a flirtatious glance. Because it's just sort of natural hat to her.
Exactly.
And she leans down, she sort of bends down, sort of at Christian's knee, and sort of starts cleaning the wound and wrapping it.
Mm.
But she seems not to be listening to your conversation in any great depth. She knows when to mind her own business.
Yeah. Well, just to be on the safe side, Peter keeps his mouth shut while she does that, and instead sits down in a chair of his own and gets this kind of like right next to Christian and gets this kind of pondering look in his eyes, as if what's he gonna do now?
I would prefer it if you kept your details on this evening away from Miss Rosemont's ears.
He chuckles. You have my word.
I doubt she would be incredibly impressed that I was spending my money down at the boxing when we are organising some other events in the future and trying to keep hold of the estate.
He nods and says, I I can imagine she wouldn't be too pleased at that. You have my word. And then he reaches into his pocket and says, by the way, sir, here's your. If you are in need of money, you can have some of my winnings. I don't need that much.
He holds out his hand, stopping you. No, I think you could put it to better cause than I. Perhaps in this community.
He nods. I shall do so. Thank you.
You earned it, after all. It's quite impressive.
I would have liked to see the look on that manager's face when his boy hit the ground.
Well, it's quite silly of him trying to escape.
Yeah.
Though I'd be careful. The organised crime in these parts. That's a lot of money you won. I wouldn't hold onto it for too long.
No.
Just in case they come looking for it.
Well, then, as you said, so there are much better ways that these money can be spent than being in my pocket. So I shall certainly put them to better use than that.
You're getting a few looks now as you've produced the money.
He puts it back in his pocket and looks scowling at people.
The women are sort of looking at you with the anticipation of the fact that you have quite a lot of money in your pocket. And of course, it's a competitive market to earn money.
Yeah. Money rules the world. He doesn't do anything but sit there and put the money back in his pocket, and wait for the young woman to be finished cleaning your wounds.
She finishes and stands up and goes over and she sort of takes it into the kitchen, where she can sort of throw the stuff away, I guess.
Yeah.
And you can hear her sort of talking in a sort of low tone to someone else that's in there.
And Peter frowns. He's had quite enough surprises for one night. Thank you very much. So he stands up and casually as casually as he can, he tries to listen in on the conversation. Standing by the door or something. He does not have heightened senses, unfortunately, so he can't use that.
Christian does, but he's not going to use it for the sake of this.
Yeah. But he will discreetly try to see if he can he hear anything of what's being said.
Yeah, you can hear the general gist of the conversation is talking about the fight and the amount of money that she saw
Yeah.
in his hand, and sort of conversation on who was going to try and approach you.
He smiles and looks at Christian and sits back down. I guess I should have been more careful with that. Now everyone's talking about us.
Never give the horse a horse full of money. He smirks.
Yeah. I
That's why I keep myself out of these places a little bit more than I used to. But there was a time then I called the brothels and the bordellos a second home.
well I
It's
can see that.
easy to buy love here and to
I can
buy power, but to gain it on your own merit is a difficult thing.
I
But I think
well
you
I
have potential.
well I can see the attraction of these places on you at least. But as you said, it is not. In, it First of all, it is harder, but it is in first of all it is better style, in my opinion, to not have to fuck your way to power. And secondly, he looks at the girls with a bit of a look of pity in his eyes, and says, and secondly, to while I would, of course, take advantage of, and now he speaks in a low voice, so no one else can hear the two of them. While I would, of course, take advantage of the blood if opportunity arose, I do not like I do not like taking advantage of these girls who's been driven to this by circumstances.
Christian laughs. How you are charmingly naive, Mr. Tevin. Most of these women, at least from my experience, your common corner prostitute will have been forced into such by poverty and degradation, that's true. But in the more affluent houses, you'll find that the women choose their line of work more because they enjoy it, or because it's something that comes easy to them.
Indeed, he looks a bit skeptical, but he okay.
Uh, Maggie over there is a former nun. He indicates to the woman that was cleaning his wounds.
He chuckles and says, Are you quite serious, sir?"
Oh, very serious, deadly serious. There's nothing I know better than this
I Mary,
particular realm of persuasion.
I Mary. That's okay. I
Well,
well,
there's one thing I know better, but
yeah,
I do
that's
not
not
seek to continue to boast this night.
indeed, sir. And speaking of these ladies' services, he says then looks at your arm and discreetly gestures at his own bruises. Maybe we should, you know.
I banked on it. I was just waiting to see how relaxed you were in the scenario.
Oh,
You're gonna have to be a little bit more careful here than you would in the street.
I
I especially have to be very careful here.
is this place? Is there something particular about this place, or is it?
Oh, it's just something particular about myself.
Ah, Mary. Okay.
I always have to be careful. And my mother has her eyes everywhere. I think she has some sort of supernatural ability to know when I'm up to no good.
That's generally true of all mothers.
So, which would you prefer?
And
I have my preferences, but I'll let you choose first, seeing as you are the victor of this evening.
Peter smiles and nods, and then he looks around at the girls and finds a young, maybe around 20 or something, a young blonde woman who reminds him a bit of a girl he used to have a crush on when he was younger. So he says, "I think that lass over there might make for a decent distraction."
Christian runs his fingers over his mustache. Good. Okay. Well, let us reconvene after we have satisfied our appetites.
Aye.
And then we can talk about what's going to occur and try to recapture some of the damage done by Floki this evening.
Aye. I look forward to that. And then he gets up and heads over to the girl, who seems to be little bit surprised, pleasantly though, that she was the one he asked for. But they go to the room, and yeah, you know what happens there.
Yeah. Christian takes 2 because he's greedy like that. He also needs 2 blood, and he doesn't really like to leave them comatose because it means they can't work, and the madame gets annoyed with him, and
Yeah,
that sort of thing.
I think that 2 blood points would make someone fine, right?
It
Just
does.
fall
It
asleep and
does.
wake up.
It does. It's not going to kill them.
No.
Or injure them permanently, but it does take it out of them quite a bit. They'll need to sleep and rest for a while. It's not going to hurt her.
No, I don't want to hurt her.
But it's going to knacker her out. So
yeah.
she's just going to assume that you're very exceptionally good in bed. Because all she remembers is the kiss and then being really tired.
So let's do that then. He will feed 2 blood points off her to heal his 4 bashing, and then he'll still be back at he'll still be back at 5, so he will. Damn it. He might actually take another one with him as well.
They're both being greedy.
Exactly. Well, he needs to get his blood a little up, because right now he's at 5, so it won't take much before he goes rah, especially.
If you're going to go full hog without wishing to be crude, you're going to need to spend a point of blood.
Oh. I completely forgot about that. I wasn't thinking about that at all.
Yeah, just be careful with that, because if you there's no way of getting around this without being crude. There really isn't. I'm trying.
Yeah, like, using euphemisms everywhere. Yeah.
If you complete the act, as it were,
yeah,
which is easy to do when you're biting somebody, as you enjoy it, you end up ghouling them because it goes in.
Okay.
So be careful not to do that.
Yeah. Well, actually, he was just gonna feed from them and nothing more.
Okay.
So he takes 2 from the blonde girl to heal, and then I think he might spot someone who looks slightly Irish in appearance, and go, hey, I need 2 more. So long story short, he'll take her as well, and take 2 blood points and get up to 7.
Are you taking them separately, or are you taking them at the same time?
I am taking them at the same time. It would make more sense, and it would also mean that it would look less suspicious to just come out and take another one, I think. So he takes the two of them in with him together.
Okay, so after you've finished,
Yeah.
Well, you haven't left the room, but you have finished feeding.
Yeah.
And the two ladies are passed out, or
Yeah.
not exactly passed out, but sort of laying around in bliss.
They're sleeping. Yeah.
Um, the door doesn't get knocked on; it opens,
Hmm?
and you might expect to see Christian. How would you react if the door suddenly opened?
I would. Well, since I'm now easily full, I won't go into. I won't become angry or anything like that. But I would like jump out of bed and face the door because like reaction.
And you see this. You might have expected to see Christian, but you see this man standing in the doorway that you don't recognise. And his
Uh-huh.
eyes fixate on you and then the two girls, and he smiles, sort of smirks,
Mm.
and lights a cigarette.
Can I help you, sir?
I wondered where you got into.
Well, that was a right mess, wasn't it? So I had to get away from there.
Took me a little bit of time to track you down. They opened every door in this corridor.
I'm quite surprised that you managed to track me down at all, sir. But who are you, if I may ask?
An interested party. He walks into the room, looking at the two sleeping girls. You
Mhm.
get the sense from this man that he's not particular. He's just got the aura of someone that's not particularly nice.
Mhm.
He gives you quite a hard look.
And this guy doesn't really have anything that for Peter to be intimidated by, so he just stands there and looks at him inquisitively. Hmm. So, how may I help you, sir?
My boss is very interested in meeting with you.
I indeed. And who might your boss be?
He reaches into his pocket and picks out a playing card, and it's got a address on the back. And you notice as he moves his hand, he's got a set of 3 playing cards tattooed on his hand.
Hmm? Which cards?
The King of Clubs, the 2 of Spades, and the Ace of Diamonds.
Okay. Plus two of spades, ace of diamonds, and Peter reaches out his hand to take the card, and then looks on the back. Hmm, I I shall go see him when I'm ready. It shan't be long. You have my word.
He looks down at the corridor and goes, "Don't bring your friend, he's not welcome."
I indeed, he says with a bit more skepticism, but he does not. All right then, I shall come to you when I am ready. I need to finish my business here.
He gives another sort of glance down at the girls. It's kind of a there isn't any affection in his eyes
Mm,
when he looks at the women, which is a little bit unsettling to
yeah.
see. And he curls his lip and then turns and walks out of the room.
Hmm. And when he is certain that the newcomer has left, Peter will also close the door and leave the girls to sleep before he um, exits the room as well, heading over to part where they like where he and Christian were sitting before, and he waits for them for Christian to come out.
You notice that there's a bit of a ruckus going on because, like you said, they opened all the doors.
Yeah. Peter sits and tries to hide a smirk as he imagines what happened when he opened the door to people who were in the business of business. But
And
he does.
you know, people aren't very happy with this. Some people were quite intimidated.
Yeah.
But it's not caused a. It's just a sort of annoyance rather than anything else. But people aren't stupid enough to get angry about it because they're fully aware of who that man was and who he works for.
And yeah, he will look at the address, and he will look at the back of the card at the address, and he will try to see if he can remember if he knows anything about this part of town. Um, let's see, that should be a streetwise intelligence.
Yeah.
1, 2, 3, 4. Well, okay. 7, 6, 10, 6.
Okay. It's not a place that. I mean, you're not native to this area as such, but you know that it's not a place that you would go unless you had specific business there.
Mm.
It's run by a particularly formidable gang. The leader's called Jack Flynn.
Okay.
That's common knowledge.
Yeah.
And it's it's a bit dangerous to get if you. A lot of the shops there are under protection rackets and that sort of thing.
Mm.
It's a shady part of town. You wouldn't catch any aristocrats in that area, or
No.
anyone wearing anything of worth.
He nods to himself and thinking that even if he hadn't said not to bring Christian, he wouldn't have asked Christian to come along anyway, because it would have been like asking for trouble.
A couple of minutes later, Christian reappears and he's pulling his braces over his shirt. The cut on his arm seems to have disappeared, but he buttons his shirt collar, shirt sleeve over it to hide it anyway.
Yeah. And Peter looks at him and says, "Did that guy open the door on you as well?"
He did.
Madman. And
He was rather put out when the split second between him opening the door and the split second between me having my knife in his face were coincidental.
I bet that was that was just disgraceful. Anyway, he says, and then produces the card with the address. It seems that it was me he wanted, and he gave me this, and then shows him the card.
Be very careful, Peter. They're only mortals, but it's not. They either want you for one or two things. They either want the money that you earn tonight, or they want to bring you around to their way of thinking.
He nods, indicating that he takes your words very seriously, and then he says, "Well, they shall have neither. But I think that I should go and meet this character anyway, because if I'm to stay here and have any kind of influence in, if I'm to have any kind of say in the way some areas of the city operate, and to be able to protect my people as well, I think I had best at least get to know this person, and not on unfriendly terms. But I thank you, and um, I think it would be a good idea for me to not bring the money to that place, because if I know his type right, and I think I do, I've seen his type in London as well, he will have pickpockets employed to rob me of my earnings, shall we say. So he takes his personal. I'm guessing that he has some kind of personal pouch where he keeps his money normally, right? Um,
If you like, if you like, I can take some with
yeah,
me, and I can return it to you when we're in a more discreet place.
I was actually thinking about asking you that, because
I it's very difficult for someone to pickpocket me, put it that way. And
he
then
nods.
you don't have the benefit of many years of training that I do.
He nods and says thank you, and then takes the money and hands them to Christian.
I would suggest consulting the sheriff if you are going to deal with Flynn. The sheriff knows quite a bit about those particular gangs.
Where might I find him?
He normally hangs around a pub called the Witch's Head. It's not too far from here.
All right. Well, I shall go meet with him at once, and then if he if he can if that meeting goes well, I shall go to see this Flynn character, and the next time we meet, I will brief you on what transpired.
Alright, well, I'll have the money secured until you can pick it up.
I do not doubt it. Thank you, my friend.
He smiles and puts his bowler hat on before making his way to the door and heading off into the night.
Yeah, and Christian nonsense. Peter follows, um, heading towards the pub he mentioned.
Okay? Do you want to do that now, or would you like to do that later?
We can do it now. I'm not in any hurry
Okay.
for anything else.
Let me see if I can find the sheriff. The streets are a little bit quieter than when you first came, simply because the police have been, and people don't want to stick around much for that.
Mm.
It's quite late in the night as well. It's about 1 o'clock in the morning. There are a few people around, but mostly they've been on the booze or plying for trade.
Mm.
And the Witch's Head is a good old English pub. Spit and sawdust on the floor. Less than attractive bartender. And poor quality ale.
Yeah.
And exceptionally strong whiskey.
Right. Um, he enters the pub, and he has met the sheriff. They met at the scene where they discussed Primogen. So he looks around the bar searching for him.
You see him pitched up in a corner, surrounded by a group of other men, and they appear to be in a fierce debate about something.
Well, always a guy for the baits. Even if he didn't have business with the sheriff, he would be heading over there as well. So he heads over to a place where he can be like listening, but not be seen as intruding, and listens.
And I'm telling you, it was this big. Bollocks. No way. And they're arguing about the size of something. And one of them gets up and goes, right, I'm gonna go to the privy, I'm gonna show you myself. And there's a sort of a English theme innuendo here, but one of the guys gets up and a couple of the others follow him, and the sheriff shakes his head, chuckling, and sips from a tankard of beer. And when he looks up, he catches the eye of Peter, and he sniffs and sort of flashedly indicates with his hand for you to sit down if you want to.
And he does. And Peter does, and says, I was hoping to find you. I find myself I think in need of your advice on a matter. And then he produces the card. I do not know if you've heard of the incident earlier this evening down at the ring, but that was what all the police whistles were about. It's a short tale to make. I tried to address the crowd, and when I did, this other kindred called, and then he searches his brain, Floki, I think, decided that it would be a ravaging great idea to let the fighting dogs out, the starving dogs in the middle of a crowd. So yeah, that was a bit messy. Anyway, this gentleman, and I'll use that term very loosely, later came to me and told me that his boss wanted to see him and he wanted to see me, and then gave me this card. I have been told that I've been made to understand that it's some character named Errol Flynn, and that it might be wise to speak to you before going to see him.
Are you holding out the card? He takes it from you, sort of roughly. You see the thunderous expression extend across his features as you mentioned Floki and the dogs.
Yeah.
And he doesn't exactly snatch the card from you, but he sort of takes it quite roughly. He looks at it and goes, Jack Flynn. Yeah, he probably sent his trained pet dog to come and find you. Scarred up guy, ugly motherfucker.
Is there anything else I should know about this Flynn character?
He's smart, he's tough, and he has a lot of power. In the mortal circles, at least. He he has a lot of young men that work for him that take the blame and swing from the noose when
discovered.
When discovered, yeah. Murder, extortion, theft.
So this guy Flynn does everything, and these poor chaps take the blame for it.
Well, he has his lackeys do his work for him, and then he just reaps the benefits.
I hate the man already.
Some of the boys are no older than 13.
And Peter's anger does not diminish as he says this.
It's easy to get righteous about Peter, but the thing is, it's a necessary evil. If you want some sway and some power and some attention in these parts, Flynn's a good route to go. He can get you in touch with the right people.
Aye.
He's not a nice man.
And Peter nods in the way that you do when you see the reasoning of an argument, but that you would rather not see the reasoning of. Like hating to admit that something is true. Fuck. I guess you're right.
And the sheriff, he's chewing tobacco, and after he says he's not a nice man, he sort of spits it into the bucket.
Mm.
But he's a true Scot through and through, and there's some honour in that, but also quite a lot of danger.
I
was a street rat myself before we came into this life.
under this Flynn guy, or
No, he's before my time. But the thing is, you have an advantage of power over these people. Just play it cautious, and don't
I
cause any fuck ups, because I don't want to have your balls on the chopping block as well.
I rather like my balls myself, so I assure you I shall not endanger the masquerade on this bastard's expense.
Don't lose your temper. I've got enough to deal with.
Mm. Understood.
Good.
Thank
And
you.
he looks out the window, and two men come in, and the two men had gone to the toilet previously. They had to go all the way outside because they were indoor toilets, and they shove a rat, the biggest rat you've ever fucking seen in your life, on the table. It's roughly the size of a small dog.
Oh, gosh.
It's huge. I fucking told you it was this big. And they laugh, and the sheriff laughs, and he looks. But you see a sort of slight look of concern on the sheriff that he tries to hide as he looks at the rat, thinking, "Someone's been giving this rat blood."
Gosh. And
But he's probably got a good idea who that was.
yeah. And Peter looks at the rat and again also tries to look like as if it doesn't really concern him, but he's just freaked out about how big it is. And then he decides that's a matter for another time. And then looks at the sheriff and says, "Well, thanks. I shall take my leave." And he goes away.
As you leave, you hear the barmaid come out, the landlady of the place, and she's screaming at the men to take the dirty rat out of her pub. That sort of echoes into the distance as you end up back on the moonlit and gaslit streets.
Yeah.
And you make your way home for the night with questions on your mind about the mysterious Jack Flynn and what he may want with you. For now, this scene closes, and thank you very much for playing, and thank you for watching. Good night.
Good night.